This is the story time of how my therapist reverse psychology the fuck out of me, and it really changed my life. So in August of last year, my ex brutally fucking cheated on me, which meant I needed extra therapy because I was distraught. I was confused. I was heartbroken. But most embarrassingly, I wanted that motherfucker back. Not actually. No, I kind of did. I was just at the point of a breakup where it's like you find out you get cheated on and you're like, but I love him so fucking much. And he's like, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. And I'm like, having a whole other girlfriend isn't a fucking mistake. That's a choice, bitch. So that's the point of my life that I was at. I think we did like 5 sessions of me being like trying to justify getting back together with him and her kind of being like, no, but like obviously not saying it like that because she can't, but just being like, I don't think so. Like, didn't he lie about his grandma dying? I'm like, why are we always focusing on the negative? But in this specific session, she like flipped a switch on me and I wasn't expecting this. In the session, I'm crying about him again, whatever. And my therapist goes, why don't you just give him a chance? I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Like, this is the first time I've ever heard her say this. So I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you keep talking about him. I'm like, why don't you just give him another chance? Like, why don't you just do it again? She's like, meet with him when he gets back from France and like sit down, talk, set some boundaries, but like, why not get back together with him? Like, why would you not? And I'm sitting there like shocked. I'm like, my jaw is on the fucking floor. I'm like, you really think I should do that? And she's like, yeah, like, if you're still interested, why not? And I'm like, yeah, why the fuck not? She's like, even though he had a whole other girlfriend, hear him out. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking hear him out. I'm like, yes, bitch, we're on the same page. So I end that session. I'm hyped as fuck. I'm like, my therapist gave me the go. Like, fuck what my friends are saying. I like text my friends back. I'm like, you all are fucking losers. I'm gonna date him again. They're like, wait, what, Livy? And I'm like, just fuck off. I was truly and utterly like hyped the fuck up because nobody in my life at that point was like, you know what? Give that dumb fuck another chance. Why don't you see it out? I feel like when everyone's being like, leave, at least for me, I'm like, well, now I want to stay because all of you bitches are telling me to leave. Like, and I know it's what I should do. I know that's what is the best for me, but like somehow I kind of want to stay. So when I heard my therapist be like, why don't you stay? I was like, oh my God. What part 2? Fuck was that? So I'm hyped. I start texting my ex and I'm like, I set this dinner reservation. We're gonna meet here at this time when you get your dumbass back from like abroad. And my ex is so excited. He's like, what made you change your mind? Like, I'm so excited to see you. I'm like, don't ask fucking questions, bitch. Just show your ass up at the restaurant. Like, we don't need to speak like that. I'm on the subway when I did this. So I'm on the subway. I'm feeling good. I'm like, yeah. Like, I'm in my power. Like, Guys, my ex is fucking thrilled. He's like, thank you so much for like giving me the chance to even talk to you. And I'm like, shut up. And I'm sitting there, I start reading my book and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Why did I just schedule a dinner to hear this motherfucker out? Like, his actions already spoke louder than his words. Like, what am I doing? I look and I sound and I feel like a dumb bitch. I go to work. I tell my friend at work everything, like the therapy session and how like I'm gonna hear him out and things like that. And as I'm saying it, I'm like, wow, Livy, you really sound fucking stupid. Hearing myself say that out loud, like, yeah, I had like a great therapy session and like, I'm gonna give him another chance and like, just like hear him out, kind of thing. Just like, I was like, what am I doing? And I'm in my head, I'm like, Livy, you cannot go and meet this man for dinner and like, you can't even give this man a second chance. This man already showed you he doesn't know your worth. You're like the baddest bitch alive. He already showed you he is going to disrespect you, doesn't give a fuck, that he's a liar and a whack ass motherfucker. And you're gonna sit at dinner across from him, eat a sushi roll and listen to him tell you why he had a whole other girlfriend the entire fucking time. Be fucking for real, bitch. Like, be fucking for real. It hits me. Thank fucking God it hits me. And I'm like, I text Max, I'm like, I'm canceling dinner. He's like, can we at least do dessert? I'm like, no, no, bitch. There's no dinner. There's no dessert. Get the fuck out of my face. And I'm like, I cannot do this. I don't want to be with this person anymore. And I'm tired of the cycle of like, oh my God, like, yeah, he did this horrible thing, but like, maybe I should stay. Like, no, fuck that. Like, I worked way too hard and way too long on loving myself to let a whack ass motherfucker who decided to be a whore ruin all my self-growth and my self-love. So like a week later, I block him and I'm like, done. Like, that was the end of the relationship. A month or 2 later, it hits me. I'm like, my therapist reverse psychologied the fuck out of me. Because if it wasn't for her being like, yeah, like, give him a chance, like, try it out, I would have never had the realization that I was acting like a dumb fucking bitch. I really am forever grateful for her doing that, because like, I honestly, it snapped me out of my dumb bitch era so fucking quick. Shout out to my therapist. I love you. But now when my friends are like talking to their loser fucking exes and like being in the situation that I was, I'm like, give them a chance. I'm out here reverse psychologying them.
Today I'll be sharing with you a story while I do my makeup. So growing up, I went to a tiny Christian school. It was awful. And on this fine day, it was Teacher Appreciation Day. Some of the moms got together and got the teachers a cooler of Sonic Ice. Sonic Ice is the best. If you get it, you get it. Well, anyways, I went into the cafeteria and I saw the cooler open. I wanted some Sonic Ice. Are you kidding me? I got the red Solo cup, which is quite scandalous of them. And I scooped it out and I went back to class. I had no idea what it was for, who it was for, until a woman busted into the room and started yelling at me for taking the Sonic Ice. She said I was unappreciative. Probably, I was a teenager. And then she said she was gonna talk to my mom. Okay. I don't know if my mom remembers this, but she told her to cool down. Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about that today. It was so weird.
Get ready with me while I tell you about my horror story as an au pair in Spain this summer. Okay, so for you that don't know what an au pair is, it's basically a live-in nanny, but abroad. So I did mine in Spain. Okay, my light just died. But basically, I had been searching for months and I finally came across this perfect family. There were 2 daughters. One was 9 and one was 8. Basically, I had a phone call with them and they were perfect. So we ended up signing the contract. So I started at the beginning of June. Mind you, I have never been to Europe before, and this was my first time ever flying that far alone. My brother was in Italy, and so I ended up meeting him there, and we hung out for a week before I took my flight to Spain. I landed in Spain, and I took the bus to their town, and the dad ended up picking me up, and he was super nice. He was very welcoming, gave me a hug, and while we were walking to the house, because this is a town where, like, everything is walkable, you don't really take cars. While we were walking to the house, we found out that we had mutuals, which is, like, really crazy to think about because they live in Spain and I live in California. But I knew a family that was going to be in that town that summer. I just randomly, like, figured it out, and it was the same family, and so it was just, like, really weird how that all played out. Then, the dad walked me to the school to pick up the girls, and I ended up meeting them, and they were both really shy at first, but they were honestly just, like, super adorable, and I was so excited to be in Spain with them. We walked up to the house, I got moved in, it was perfect, and this is where things started to go wrong. One of the daughters moved in with her sister, so they were sharing a room, and I took one of the daughter's rooms. I took the older one. And so obviously she's not used to that, and she had been living in her own room this whole time and now has to, like, get up and move her stuff for me. And I think that is where our first issue started. But anyways, the first week went by and it was great, honestly. Like, we had so much fun. I would drop them off at school at like 8, and then I'd pick them up around 4, and I'd have the whole day to myself. I made au pair friends. Honestly, it was great. Then the second week came around. As an au pair, a lot of people know this. This is just like an au pair rule. But weekends you get completely free. You're allowed to travel, you're allowed to do whatever you want, and that was in my contract. I was able to do whatever I wanted. That Saturday, I went out with my au pair friends, and obviously we went out really late. I came back around like 3 a.m. and honestly, they don't care. I asked them, I was like, do I have a curfew? They're like, no, do whatever you want. Obviously, like, I was quiet when I came back. We're in Spain, you know? Then the next morning, obviously, I wasn't feeling 100% because I'd been out really late, had some fun with the girls, and we all woke up to get breakfast. They made us breakfast because we always have breakfast together on weekends, and they went to go see their horses. So I was home alone for like 3 or 4 hours. They did ask me if I wanted to go with them, and I said no, I'm okay, because I had to plan a trip because my mom was going to visit me because they had a week trip planned, and so I had a week to do whatever I wanted, and so my mom was just going to come. We were going to go travel together. But yeah, so they get home from horseback riding, and the older daughter, comes up to me. Little daughter is on a trip right now, so she's not here. And the older daughter is like, hey, like, can we hang out? Can we do this? Can we do that? And I'm like, oh, okay, like, sure. Even though it was my day off, I went outside and I played with her for like probably an hour or two. And we were kind of just playing soccer, and she started to be mean, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go in my room, like, I can't do this right now. So then I go back into my room, and I'm just like hanging out, planning my trip. I'm on the phone with my mom. I end up hanging up on my mom multiple times because she keeps coming in. And she starts like asking me to hang out again. I'm like, oh, like, I just hung out with you, like, can I have a little bit of time to like just chill by myself? Mind you, I am off the clock. I already spent 2 hours hanging out with her on a day that I'm off, and I get paid $75 a week. That is nothing for a full-time nanny. I guess au pairs just like don't get paid that much. Okay, yeah, so she comes into my room and she's asking me to hang out, and I'm like, okay, like, not now, like, I'm kind of trying to plan something. And she's basically just like, no, you're not, you're on TikTok. No, you're not, you're on TikTok. I'm like, okay, well, I'm like planning things on TikTok. I was like looking up restaurants and stuff. And she just like did not believe me, and she was like messing with me, and she starts jumping on the bed. Yes, it is her bed, but like in that moment it was mine, and so she's jumping on it with her shoes on, and I'm just kind of like, whoa, like, I'm kind of getting annoyed, you know? And then she keeps coming in and out, in and out. And I had like a water bottle that I bought from like the store, just a plastic water bottle. And she comes in and she's like, this is my water. This is my water bottle. I'm like, no, I bought it. And so she like went and told her mom on me, and she's like, Brielle stole my water bottle. I'm like, no, I literally bought this at the store. I showed her the receipt. Like, she was just really getting on my nerves at this point. Mind you, they are not fluent in English at all. So us translating had to do a lot with like translating on the phone and just like trying to figure out things with like our hands and stuff. Okay, so that goes on for like 4 hours, and I'm not kidding. Like, her just like trying to hang out and stuff. And I get mad, and I'm like, okay, can you please leave? And she's like, no. And I'm like, no, like, please, I'm doing something, like, can you please leave? I'm being very polite. Mind you, she's still accusing me of things, and I'm just getting really annoyed. And so finally, I should have never done this, but I was just like, out. I pointed my finger and I was like, please leave, I'm doing something. And she basically said, okay, if you can't hang out with me now, I'm gonna tell my dad that you can't have dinner with us. I was like, sure, go ahead, like, do that. Mind you, I had today completely off. Like, this day I had completely off. I could do whatever I wanted. I could rot in my bed. I could go travel. I could do whatever I wanted. So then she leaves. And a few minutes later, I get a knock on my door, and it's the dad, and he's like, Brielle. And I was like, oh, hi. And I open the door, and he lays it on me. He starts yelling at me. He's like, how dare you disrespect my daughter like this? You are a part of this household. You need to act like it. And if you don't want to act like it, we won't feed you. And so I'm like, whoa, okay. And I'm not dramatizing anything. Like, this was a full ass, like, he was yelling at me. And so I was like, whoa, okay. So I like went back into my bed. This, like, it was like probably like a 2-minute like lecture, and I had like anxiety rush all the way down my neck. Like, I have photos of it, and I was just like stressed, like literally like shaking. I would never been like yelled at like that before in my life. So like I called my mom, and I was like, what the actual hell just happened? And she was like, oh my God, that is not okay. And I'm like literally crying. I'm like, holy crap. And so I pretty much stayed in my room for the rest of the day because I was like genuinely scared of the dad, and the dad had to go on a work trip the next day for the next week, so I didn't have to see him. But yeah, him yelling at me was the start of all the problems. And so that was on a Sunday. So the next morning I wake them up to go to school. Mind you, I'm doing this all by myself. The parents are getting ready for work, and sometimes they even leave before I get the daughters up. So I'm trying to wake them up for school, and they're being mean. They are yelling at me. They are saying stuff in Spanish, and I actually voice recorded some of them, and I sent them to my friend that's fluent in Spanish, and I was like, what are they saying? And they were basically just saying like, you get to go out at night, therefore we don't have to go to school. And so like I'm texting the mom, and I'm like, they are being horrible this morning, like I don't know what to do. And she was just like, it's okay if they're late, like that's fine. Like, I don't even know what ended up happening. I get at some point they both got up, and the older daughter left and went to school and didn't say a word to me because the older daughter can walk alone. Okay, and then so basically for the next 2 weeks, stuff like that was happening. I am like running out of time, so I'm gonna make a part 2. Get ready with me while I tell you about my au pair horror story part 2. Okay, so for you guys that have not seen part 1, basically I'm talking about my story as a live-in nanny abroad in Spain. Okay, so anyways, he yells at me, and the daughter overhears the whole thing, and this is where it kind of like starts to like, things start getting worse. I think when the daughter heard him yell at me, she had power over me because she was like, okay, so I tell my dad this and he yells at her. Basically, I'm in control. And so basically, all of my authority went out the window. They would not listen to a single word I said. Not a single word. And I'm like not that mean of a person. Like, I've worked in daycares my whole life and I've never been the one to say no. And so there were certain things that were like, no, let's not do that. Like, no sugar after school, which is that was their parents' rule. And they're like, no, our parents let us have sugar. And I'm like, actually, like, no, they don't. And so anytime any of these things would happen, they had these little watches and they would go and they would call on their watch while their parents are at work. And obviously, like, I'm there so their parents can work. And so obviously I'm getting scared because I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And so there was this one day that I promised them that we would make cookies if they did something for me, because they were saying they wouldn't do anything for me. So I was like, if you do this, we'll make cookies tomorrow after school. And they're like, okay. So we get home from school and they're like, time to make cookies, time to make cookies. I'm like, okay, well, Kira, their house cleaner, was in the kitchen. And I was like, okay, we have to wait until she's done. Like, obviously we can't be cooking when she's cleaning. And the little one gets really mad. She's like, you said we can make cookies, blah, 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 blah. And she's also sitting here like, they don't have half the ingredients for cooking, like for cookies. They don't have like baking soda, none of it. So like they didn't even have butter. And so she's like, no, we can make them without butter. We can make them without this. I'm like, we literally can't. Like, we literally can't. And so then she's like, I'm going to call my dad and ask if he can make cookies with me when he gets home from work. And I'm like, no, don't call your dad. Like, don't call your dad. Like, if you're gonna call your dad, like, I'm not making cookies with you at all. She's like, well, I'll make them by myself, you know, like just stuff like this. And I'm really trying to be nice here. Like, I'm not a mean babysitter by any means. And I couldn't. So yeah, it just was like really bad because they were like, every time I'd say no, they'd call their parents. And I just couldn't really like do something that I was never like, when my authority was never like taken into consideration. That's just where it got toxic. And, like, I physically couldn't do my job. Like, if they're saying no to everything, then, like, what's the point of me even being there? So, yeah, after that week, it was, like, end of week 3, I texted the mom, I go, we need to talk. And we had a conversation, and I basically said that I can't do this anymore, and I need to leave. And she said, okay, no problem. That's a bummer that you couldn't have stayed, but, like, she did agree that the daughter did overhear when he yelled at me, and that's where it kind of got screwed up. But yeah, that was my experience as an au pair. There's a lot of other stories that I left out. I was just trying to get like the gist. If you guys want to hear more about them, I can make a part 3, but this is already super long and super detailed. So yeah, moral of the story is when you're gonna be an au pair, and if you are ever to be an au pair, really make sure that the family is like a good family, because mine was a great family. It's just there was just things that happened along the way and got screwed up. And honestly, if the dad never yelled at me, I don't think the daughter would have ever reacted the way she did. But also, like, there were so many red flags from the beginning. Like, they never ever once sat down with me and gave me like a list of rules. And so like I was just basically going off of like my morals and like what I would do, but like obviously that's different from their family. But I'm like, you never sat me down once and told me rules. So it's just like there were a lot of things happening there. And yeah, so good luck. If any of you guys want to be an au pair, my DMs are open and I would love to tell you guys more about it. But yeah. But if any of you guys are wanting to be an au pair or you come across this video, not all experiences are bad. I had a friend that had a horrible experience and she did it the next summer and had the best kid ever. So it really just depends, and like you guys can always leave comments down below and I'll answer them. But bye.
Get ready with me while I tell you guys about the story that I got sent. So it started off by me meeting this guy a few months before COVID started. We were texting for a while, getting to know each other, and eventually I started to like him. We were going out, and eventually my girl best friend moved around my area. We were hanging out a lot, and I eventually told her about my boyfriend. She was happy for me, but then she started acting weird. She hits him up and he ends up sending me a screenshot of her trying to get at him. She asked me if I wanted to hang out, so I was like, okay, sure. So whenever I went to her house, I ended up confronting her about it. She got mad at me and told me why I would ever think that she'll hit up on my boyfriend, but then I showed her the proof. After I showed her the proof, she kicked me out of her house and I went straight to my boyfriend's house. When I went to my boyfriend's house, I told him what happened and he told me to drop her. So then I dropped her and then COVID started, so I couldn't see my boyfriend as much. We take a little break because COVID did start and we couldn't really see each other, but we'll still text seeing how we were doing. Then my best friend sends me a snap of them together. And the reason why they had a chance seeing each other more is because they were in a gated community together and they lived like 30 seconds away from each other. When she sent me the snap, she didn't have one boyfriend, but she had two. But then I snap her back and tell her what she's doing with my ex and she just blocks me. But then I text my ex and I tell him that I want nothing to do with him and that I don't want to hear from him anymore. Moving forward to this year, we talked about it and made a solution. Now we're all good with each other, but we're not friends. Okay, that is the end of the story, but let me give you guys some feedback. First of all, that friend isn't your friend. And I hope that you cut contact with her, and if you did, good job. I know it's hard to cut off contact with a friend that you're best friends with, but if you did so, proud of you. And for your ex to be letting himself like that, and then your ex, he doesn't even have any respect, so don't go back to him. I know how girls be with their ex, just don't go back. At the end of the day, keep your head up and be careful on who you hang out with.
Toxic? Oh girl, I've been that. Being so for real, my toxicity started in kindergarten back when I had 2 boyfriends. So obviously I had my main stink and his name was Rudy, okay? And then the other one, his name was Sammy. Rudy was like the definition of perfect in my eyes. He was this cute little white boy that I was obsessed with. So he was my main boyfriend, okay? And anytime that he would piss me off or like we would go on a break or something, I would go running straight to Sammy. He was the side hoe. Bro, everybody knew these were my boyfriends and that they were not to be touched, okay? But Rudy was a little player and he had his little side hoe that he ended up choosing over me. Oh girl, and I was not having that. So I ended up switching to Sammy full time and he was actually my first kiss, I think. I'm pretty sure. And if I remember correctly, me and Sammy were on and off for like 2.5 years straight up until like midway 2nd grade when I moved schools. So time goes by and I actually go back to that same school for 4th grade. But when I come back, that ship had sailed by this point. This one I'm using for blush, I forgot, my bad. But lucky for me, there were actually these 2 new boys that I became so infatuated with. So the first one, we're gonna call him Brent, okay? And he actually ended up being my on and off boyfriend up until 7th grade. Everybody knew we were together. Everybody knew that was my man and my man only, but for some reason, he was so fucking embarrassed of me and never claimed me. So at the same time that I was on and off again with this boy, I was infatuated with another boy and we're gonna name him Jamie, but he also was my bully. But here's the thing, he was the head bitch of the boys and I was the head bitch of the girls, so eventually me and him became besties, okay? Frenemies, if you will. I was so fucking delulu over this boy. He made it so clear that he did not like me. But I was so persistent on making him mine. Like, anytime he would talk to any girl, I would throw a fit. I was like real toxic for this boy. And he was also real toxic and manipulative towards me too. Like, he convinced me that he was into me. He just didn't want to date me for some fucking reason. I don't know. This lasted also up until 7th grade. Eventually, me and Bart, what did I name him? Bart? Barry? So whatever the fuck, we're gonna rename him Bart. Me and Bart started fizzling out, okay? Like, that relationship, it wasn't done. We were so on and off here and there, but it wasn't as prominent in my life as me and Jamie were. So once like 6th and 7th grade hit, me and Jamie are having fights every other fucking week. And when I say fights, I mean like not physical, but we were like going at it real bad. He was the type of motherfucker that would get mad at me if I made friends with other guys or if I got a boyfriend, and he would like tell me that he felt like I was replacing him and make me feel bad about just like having other friends. And honestly, it got to the point where every other week we were breaking off our friendship up until I got really obsessive and really clingy. Honestly, around this time, me and Bartholomew, or whatever the fuck I named him, me and him tried it again in 7th grade and it just didn't work out. And then me and him honestly just stopped talking forever. Jamie actually ended up moving schools not too long after that, and I haven't talked to him or seen him since. We're 22 now. Bartholomew and I actually graduated at the same school, but we literally never talked since 7th grade. I don't know what he's up to anymore. I be checking up on Jamie sometimes just because I'd be curious, and honestly, like, he could still get it. But yeah, anyways, here's the look. I know nobody asked for this story time, but I didn't give a fuck. I wanted to talk about it.
You know how everyone says when you start telling your friends about your situationships, everything goes downhill? Every time I introduce him to her, it's actually over.
It's Jover chat.
About a year ago, there was this one guy who actively, like, pursued me out first, right?
Oh, months.
Swear on my life, things were literally going so normally. And I had already told her all about him. One time I was hanging out with him, and then we called her on FaceTime, so they, like, met officially. Literally, like, 2 business days after that happened. Out of literally nowhere, it, in fact, was over. And the one time she already knew him beforehand, we were officially a thing for like 3 months. And I say thing because like he refused to hang out with me ever. In the sense that the one time we did hang out, it was so he could break up with me. Point being, every time she meets someone, she's never meeting anyone ever again. Goodbye.